How are you? This is Afterthoughts, and we are going to reflect. Usually you start. Why would you wait? Look at me like I was supposed to
Because
start.
I'm the one who preached, so you're the one who has to start.
It's never. I didn't know that was a rule.
That is the rule. That's always.
Have I introduced it the other times?
Whenever I've preached, yes.
Oh, okay.
It's
Well, then,
whoever.
how do I start it?
Whoever. Well,
I honestly almost said greetings, but that sounds stupid coming out of my mouth. If I find coming out of your mouth, it sounds stupid coming out of mine.
But that's the person who didn't preach is the one who has to guide the whole thing.
All right.
So that's you.
I hope he recorded that whole thing. And that is our introduction to Afterthoughts, because we are obviously not scripted. If you want a slick production at this church, you shall not get it. Hey, Cape Fear, this is Afterthoughts. We are going to reflect on the sermon that Thomas preached yesterday. I know it's Monday. Usually we do it right after, but this is like a late afterthought. But you preached on 2 Thessalonians 3,
6 through 12.
6 through 12. I actually didn't write that down for whatever reason. But no, it was good. You started off, for the record, I was not cutting eyes at you. I just want to make sure everybody knows that. I knew you were doing something, and I even texted you. I'm supposed to react, but I don't know how. You didn't tell me, so I just sat there and waited patiently for you to stop running your mouth and being idle. But no, it was good. I know I've told you this already, but it was probably one of my favorite sermons that I've heard you preach. I was really upset that I didn't get to preach this sermon because I was originally set up to do it, and Thomas finagled the schedule so he got it. And I was like, oh, how did I lose this sermon? And then he's like, you want it back? And I said, no, it's fine. And now I think you preached it absolutely better than I could have. And so I'm so glad that you did. But let's get into it. And it's really about idleness in the church. And I think every church struggles with this. I don't even think it's just churches, but that's what we're going to talk about. I think every church struggles with this. And what I really liked was the object lesson when you had Joel using the blower during the sermon up by the front. I thought that was interesting because it represented the busyness, the busybodies in the church who, hey, everybody look at me, I'm working. But then you, as a pastor, sit back and go, whilst I appreciate the enthusiasm, the work has absolutely no impact. If you want to do it, why don't you ask? So the other thing I liked about it was that you were very consistent on using your examples of ministry examples from the past. Like you didn't use one single example from this church, which I think is good. Because I think it would have hurt a lot of feelings if you just kind of hammered the church itself. But you have an extensive ministry experience. Have you ever been in a environment where you felt as if it was not the 80-20 rule, but like the reverse? You ever been in a ministry environment where you felt like everybody was really going?
No, I can't say that. In terms of churches, no, I've been a part of parachurch that has. So
can you explain what a parachurch is?
Yeah,
because a lot of people don't understand that.
So, for example, there's a camp I was a part of for over 20 years, and every summer we would go, and it was a lot of work to get ready, and it was all hands on deck. Everybody
what
was
is
doing
the term parachurch?
parachurch coming alongside the church, something external. So
not the church. It's not the traditional church itself, but a ministry. It was outside of the church,
and it was made of people from churches. So it was almost like we go to this camp, and I would have all these adult leaders, and we would have from Friday till Monday morning to take a college room and to completely convert it and turn it into whatever our theme was, to get people trained to do all this. We were just all on board, and then we were just all going 90-0, and everybody's like, I tell people to do things and it gets done. Right. And to be clear, I was like leading one of these age groups. So, as the director, being able to do that is really nice. That doesn't always happen within church. It's like, hey, we need to do something.
Right.
And I was at a church where it took 9 months to change locks on the church because they just were dragging their feet and just like, oh, well, we'll talk about it next time. Well, we only meet once a month. So
I think it might have taken 9 months here, but that was because I just never got to it myself. But
a little different, but yeah.
So what do you think you attribute the parachurch one that you were a part of? Why do you think they were so zealous?
Because they were there on a mission. They came for a purpose, and they were coming in to minister to these teenagers who were going to be in our age group. And really, for over a decade, I was with the upcoming eighth graders, I think it was. And so it was the youngest of the groups. So these adults who
Mm,
came in, they knew this was their very first experience, these kids who were coming up. And so they understood there was an importance. There was a almost like a stage to set and to engage. And we also know that with the camp, this might be our only opportunity to connect with some of these kids. This might be the first time.
so they
So
took an
there's
ownership of the mission
ownership,
itself.
a sense of urgency, a sense of gravity, all of those things.
Hmm.
And I mean, I'm going to say that over the years, we did have some people who were idle, and very quickly I dealt with them, and I had the ability to do that.
And by dealt
And
with them, remove them from
like
the
remove
ministry.
them, take them, move them else, like, sideline them, replace them,
Hmm.
like, because there was an element we can't have that. This is not acceptable, and it did in many ways detract from the whole of the group. And I think the same thing happens in churches. I think we're just used to it,
Well,
and
before we move into that. So I would, when you met me, I was the president of a Christian motorcycle club, and all of the guys that were in the club, I would absolutely put them in the category of, like zealous, like ready for the mission.
mhm,
But we made them prospect. I know people may think this sounds silly, but we made them prospect for like 6 months to a year minimum just to even get the opportunity to be a part of the membership of the club to actually be able to do these missions.
mhm.
And so like we ended up kind of vetting them through that process, but there was that mission that they were excited about. So I don't want to now. I really enjoyed the sermon. I thought it was fantastic, but now this conversation's got me moving in a different direction. Do you think that the problem might be that we, as leadership, don't bring them into a mission? Like we don't give them their mission. We wait till they show interest, or like, you think the problem is that we don't launch them into something and get them I don't know about getting excited. It's not my job to get them excited, but give them the opportunity.
Yes, qualified, because if the church was itself on that mission and somebody becomes part of the church, they're coming in line, they're
Yeah.
joining. I think the church as a whole is passive. So the whole idea that we do church,
You mean all churches to include this church?
churches in general, like
Yeah.
like I said, across the board, churches just simply sort of exist. They exist for the Sunday morning service,
Yeah.
to do the Sunday morning service, and they've done it. So this is why when I work with churches, I ask them, is what they're doing directional or terminal? Because most of what a church does is terminal, meaning once they've done it, and that's it. Like, it's not designed to go anywhere. And so even if we want, like with a sermon, we're going to do applications. We expect them to go like, hey, do this
Yeah.
thing this week. That's our expectation. That's not their expectation. They're
I
not
don't
coming
I don't want to do
expecting to
this
receive.
anymore.
Do what?
I don't want to do it this way anymore.
What?
What you're talking about, because that's how we do it. At
Well,
the
yeah,
application, I don't want to do it this way anymore.
yeah. And
So
so,
so now I've seen bigger churches, like mega churches, where they have like small missional units, basically. I mean, they're not technically parachurch because they're within the church, but you can get that small core group of people to do big things. How do Okay, so remove that. I don't want the 80-20 rule. I don't want 20% doing it. How do we as a church launch the entire church missionally towards something so that it's not like that anymore? So you said it's not their expectation, it's our
mhm.
expectation. How do we get the entire church lined up with an expectation to spread the gospel, to declare, disciple, and defend? That's what we said our vision was: declare
Mhm.
the gospel, disciple those to be more like Jesus, and defend the gospel.
Mhm.
How do we get the church on that mission?
So I think I'm going to turn this a whole different direction, because I think that's what really falls on you and I,
That's what I'm
because
saying. Yeah, yeah.
we've had this vision, but I mean, I know it's up on the PowerPoint, but we don't utilize it. And I think it's because it's easy to get caught up in the grind of keeping things
It
going.
is.
And so the church as a whole, the one of the problems we have is like if you have a locomotive, it's the bigger it is, the harder it is to get it going. Now
Right.
you can get momentum, but this is why, particularly in the bigger churches, if they once they stop moving,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost impossible to get them going again. Or you do that, you just sort of break off. You have, especially if you're a really big church and you got like several thousand members, and you have this comparatively small unit of a couple of hundred.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's bigger than our church. That's just not even as 20% of them, but you have all of these people and they do these wonderful things, but it's a small unit, not the large, it's not the whole. So it requires a culture. And that's why when I think of some of the camps and some of the groups that I was a part of, there is that culture. We exist for this reason.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we're doing. And we never allow that to fizzle or to slow down. Like there was always it was draining. It requires a lot of work. And I think sometimes people like, let me just come in, let me just do my thing. And sometimes I can be that way too. But I think what happens with us, whatever mistakes we make in that regard, I think in many ways domino out. And that's
Oh,
why
sure. Yeah, yeah.
that was why
Well,
I
that's all
included
leadership, right?
one of the faces of idleness there, the idle pastor, the one
Mm-hmm.
that is not attentive. And I think that's where it's not enough. Like we can't do it on our own. We have to have people who are willing, but they're going to have, just like with the locomotive, you get this huge locomotive, you still have to put the coal to the fire. There still has to be that movement. And I think
So, do you
that's
think when Paul was writing this letter and he was hammering the church of Thessalonica, saying, "Yo, you need to," and now I'm kind of reflecting on this, and he's saying, "Those that don't work don't eat," right?
mhm.
I almost don't feel like that was an admonishment of those that don't work. Now that I'm kind of reflecting on it, maybe that was an admonishment to the leadership to saying, "Look, like you're coddling these people. Maybe you need to stop," or maybe it was both.
I think it seems to be the case of people who are trying to mooch off the church, because Paul is referencing saying, I did not do this. I worked and I did these things. So that's why I
So
think
you think
there's
it is an admonishment to the people?
I think it's all. I think it's whoever,
Yeah, yeah,
because you probably had those people who, hey, I'm pastor, I don't have to do anything. I sit back, feed me. I think probably in that day it was more than likely rarer than what we have. I
probably.
think today we have a larger problem with that.
Okay.
But I think that's why I tried to include all the various faces
No, you did for sure.
that, it's not, because I think what we do, like what my boys will do is if I get onto one because he's not doing what he's supposed to, it's like, well, he's not doing it.
Hmm.
And that's really what happens in the church a lot.
So
So quit worrying about that.
I hope everybody that listens to the sermon thinks about themselves and say, okay, well,
Right.
where am I? What is my face? But I think I want to, I want to take from it a leadership challenge to
Hmm.
us. I want to take from it. Okay, we've established what our missional focus for this church is, like that vision, right? That 3D vision:
Hmm.
declare the gospel, disciple believers to be more like Christ, and defend the gospel. That would be the apologetic focus. I'm going to challenge us to direct it and keep us missionally focused.
Hmm.
Because if we're doing that and then we still have idleness in the church, then I think we can address it. But if we're not doing our part, then it's hard to address the idleness one on one.
Well, that's what Paul did. He's like, look, it's not my problem. I didn't do this. Like I
Right.
worked night and
This is
day.
how I
So we know
and I
where
don't
this is coming from.
I wouldn't say we were I would never say I'm passive and passive pastor. Like that's not the face I would call it, but it definitely isn't as intentional and mission focused as I would like to be. And I think that if we look at those parachurch organizations we were a part of, that's what might be what's missing.
Hmm.
And we can do it with our smaller church, and I think we can make a big impact there.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Sounds good.
Not where I thought that conversation was going to go, but Good deal. All right. Well, appreciate you guys listening into this leadership meeting, apparently, and this challenge on how our conversations often go. But no, I appreciate you guys joining us, and we will see you next week.